he's not an elf. I mean, he wasn't born an elf, but he's not really a full human either at this point. So he's sort of half and half at the moment, I guess you could say, which sets him apart from everyone. And that means, of course, that he has greater difficulty moving forward of finding his place in the world. Who is he? Of course, everyone's looking into him to try to help free them from Galbatorix and defeat Galbatorix, but his problem is he knows that's his purpose in life at the moment, but how else can he have a normal life? And at the moment, he's really not sure how he can do that.
Now, was Blagden alive when... Oh, Blagden. Sorry.
Did you know that's actually a real name?
This?
Yeah, Blagden. Old English, I think. It means something like shadow. Oh, it had some meaning that I really liked at the time for the raven.
What does it mean?
I forget.
Was he alive when Morzan and Brom were being trained?
Let me think. You know, I'm not sure about the answer, to be honest with you. I know he was alive when Morzan and Brom were alive, and he's certainly as old as, I mean, he was alive back when, back right before the fall of the Riders, because during the fall of the Dragon Riders is when Arya's father, the King of the Elves, was killed. So, and it was the Raven saved his life, so it would have had to have been before that. So there's a, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. That's not, hasn't been a relevant part of the story yet, so I haven't pinned down the exact date, but there is a good chance he might have been alive during Brom and Morzan's training, or he might have been he might have saved the king's life a few years after that, right before the fall of the Riders. So it could have happened any time during that time period.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. King Evandar was king of the elves.
Yes.
But yet he was at the mercy of one Urgle.
Well, one of the things I've learned about fighting is you can have the best swordsmen, and sometimes even the best of the best, you know, they slip up, they trip, and you end up getting defeated by someone who's vastly, or not as skilled as you. So it happens sometimes, and I think that's one reason why he was so grateful to the Raven and gave it the gifts he did, because, you know, here's an elf with a very, 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 very long life. He's effectively immortal, and, you know, he almost died at the hands of an Urgle, right?
Well, because I think it's kind of a cliche to have, you know, some really powerful person die, you know, with these swarms of enemies around them. They survive for, like...
Now, usually you trip and you fall and you hit your head, and even though you're super powerful, and that's how you go.
In Eldest, you wrote from the points of views of Eragon, Roran, and Nasuada.
Yes.
In Brissinger, in Book 4, would you plan to expand that to more characters?
Actually, I'm very glad you asked that question. Yeah, it was fun to do that in Eldest, because I got to do some stuff I'd never done before with the characters. Actually, going back, I'd add one more point of view switch to Nasuada, but no, I'm always tweaking. Yes, in Brissinger, we continue with the same point of views that we've had. We have Eragon as the dominant one, and whenever he's around, we just stay with Eragon. And then when he and Roran are apart, we see Roran's point of view occasionally. We also see Nasuada's point of view. And we're also going to get to see a couple of chapters from Saphira's point of view. This one. Yes, and that was really fun to write. It was tough. I was kind of scared if I could get it or not, because I had to get her voice just right for it, but it worked, and I had a lot of fun doing that.
So does that mean Eragon and Saphira split up at some point?
No comment.
As the king and queen of the elves, isn't it rare for elves to have children?
Very rare.
And so Arya is
She's the princess. She would have been probably one of the only elf children alive at the time she was born.
Yeah, there were two.
Yes.
When Eragon went.
Yes. And there's a little bit more about those two children, actually, in the third book.
With the ending of Eldest, they meet up with the villagers.
Mm-hmm.
Eragon's not going to be able to melt right back in with his old friends because of his Saphira. And will Saphira, like, have any hard feelings toward the villagers?
No, I mean, I think Saphira doesn't worry about a lot of stuff. She really doesn't, you know? I mean, either she needs to kill it, or she needs to eat it, or she needs to protect Eragon, and if it's not one of those three, she pretty much ignores it. I mean, for her, the villagers are pretty much I mean, she maybe is somewhat friendly toward them just because she knows Eragon likes them and they grew up together in many ways, but they really don't mean a huge amount to Saphira. But you're right, Eragon can't just go back into the villagers. I mean, he is not really a part of them anymore. And again, we see a lot more of this in Brissinger.
Now, if two riders are related, does that have any effect on the colors?
Two
dragon riders. If they're related, does it have any effect on the colors of their
I know what you're trying to figure out here. No, dragon color is not related to the color of, or is not related to the person who is paired with the dragon, for the most part. For the most part. See, I'm leaving myself room there. No, it can be pretty much. I mean, a person can be paired with a dragon of pretty much any color.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens that the person's personal preference, your favorite color, for example, it ends up being the dragon you're paired with, but not always. Wait, sorry, you had a question.
Is it possible that Morzan is not Eragon's father?
No comment. I'm not talking about this at all. Any questions to do with Eragon's family or parentage? No comment.
Saphira's egg was blue.
Yes.
Does that mean, and she was blue, so is like Galbatorix, his new dragon, was the egg black because the dragon's black?
Yeah, the egg would match the color of the dragon inside. Although, I mean, the eggs are, I mean, they're sort of mottled in appearance, and they have veins of different color, like whitish veins amid the color. But the general color of the egg, it matches the color of the dragon inside.
Can Galbatorix's dragon rebel against him?
At this point, it would probably be fairly impossible, considering the amount of spells and whatnot he would weave around any of his slaves, if you will. But on the other hand, read Brissinger.
Now, in the game, Durza says that if the dragon rider dies, the dragon dies. I don't remember that being in the
No,
book,
that was an
is it?
invention of the movie and the games. And again, this is discussed some more in the third book. And I don't want to get into it in too much detail here, but basically if a dragon dies, there's a good chance the rider is just going to go crazy or insane from the loss and end up committing suicide or wasting away or dying very soon afterward. If the rider dies, there's a good chance the same thing will happen to the dragon. But not always. I mean, there's certainly exceptions. Braum was an exception. His dragon died, and he managed to survive. Galbatorix is another exception. And it's certainly happened with dragons as well, where they've survived after a rider has died. But it's pretty rare and would be very noteworthy.
Saphira was taught, as well as Eragon, when they went to visit the elves.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a few feelings to the dragon that was teaching her. I do not know how.
Glaedr.
Glaedr. And because she thought there were only now 3 dragons left.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing to find someone else.
Yeah, and I think it's understandable that she then developed feelings for the gold dragon, Glaedr, that she met, because, you know, she thought she was alone, and now she discovers she's not alone, and not only that, he's a big, handsome gold dragon, and with a long tail, so, and great big teeth. No, I mean, it's no wonder she became infatuated, or had a crush on with Glaedr, but obviously Glaedr rebuffed her advance, and that didn't work out.
I got the feeling that Saphira's feelings for him weren't close to as deep as Eragon's feeling for Arya. It was sort of more of a playful crush because he was the only dragon.
Yeah, and well, I mean, I grew up with a lot of pets. We had a dog for a very long time, and cats, and I've seen that with animals too, where, you know, they like each other. They're not deeply in love, but you know, you see that, or sometimes you have a larger dog and a smaller dog, right? And the smaller dog is nipping at the tail, and the larger dog is just sort of rolling its eyes, and finally it just bats the smaller dog out of the way.
So, in the end of Eldest, Murtagh and Eragon did have a fight over the Burning Plains, and Murtagh...
Which, by the way, did you know those Burning Plains are based on a real place out east? There are a number of places in the real world where there are deposits of coal veins or peat underground that burn, and, I mean, I was not inventing that.
Huh. That's kind of cool. But Murtagh defeated Eragon. Was that just because Eragon had been fatigued from the long hours of battle, or is it just because Murtagh actually is more powerful than Eragon?